the ryoknits knitting podcast. I have just a couple of new people following me as far as I can tell, and so I thought I would just start by introducing myself and telling you kind of what you can expect from this channel. My name is Rhiannon. I am a kind of an intermediate knitter. I've been knitting for about 6 or 7 years. I think I started in 2015. And you know, I am sometimes kind of an all-around crafter. I like to do a lot of different crafty things, but knitting is really the thing that sort of defines for me, like, my creative practice. It's the thing I can always turn to. It's the thing I probably do every single day of my life. So I started this podcast to share kind of a different perspective too on knitting, being a person who I identify as queer. I identify as the daughter of an immigrant and a third culture kid, and you know, just like various aspects of identity that maybe you don't see a lot in the knitting podcasts that exist out there. So I am here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I moved here last year. We moved from Portland, Oregon. We're new homeowners, so that's also kind of an identity thing. That's also probably something you can expect to hear me talking about in the course of this podcast. If you look back at videos, you might see I've talked about like my slow fashion journey. So obviously I'm passionate about just anything to do with sustainability, the environment, and being kind of a good person on the planet, really. That definitely infuses like how I make and how I create and the kinds of things I make. So, okay, so I think I've told you about me. One other thing to know about this podcast is sometimes curse words happen. Sometimes I have strong opinions. So yeah, I'm in my new living room. This is a new kind of set, so to speak. Okay, I want to move along and start talking about knitting because it's like 10 minutes in. Maybe it's not 10 minutes. I can't tell. So what have I been working on? Well, the first thing is that I finished this pullover called Rook. I'm blanking on the designer's first name, but I believe their last name is Nakayoshi. That might be wrong too. I will definitely include it in show notes, or you will have seen it somewhere else, but this is a pattern from Brooklyn Tweed. So this designer did it for Brooklyn Tweed. I didn't use Brooklyn Tweed yarn. I used the Harrisville Nightshades. So it's one of those patterns I saw it and I immediately knew I wanted to make it, and it took me forever to figure out like what color I would make it in, because I always envisioned it as like a dark color, but I had some real like questions around like whether cables in a really dark color would work. Well, I went for black. So that if you're not familiar, Harrisville Nightshades, it's like it's just yarn it's all like black but then mixed with other colors. So it's not like a marled thing where they're, you know, zebra stripes or whatever. It's like actually they just like comb the fibers together or something, and so you get a very subtle effect. So this one is, I think, the color Last Call, which is kind of a light blue, almost turquoisey color. And now that it's close to the camera, you can see this beautiful cable with moss stitch in the background on the sleeve. I love it. I did modify the sleeve so that I had a much longer cuff, and I made the cuff a little bit looser so that I can fold it up. So I can have this as sort of a almost 3/4 sleeve kind of thing, which is, and the cuffs are, you know, they actually ended up being more bracelet length than full length because, I don't know, I guess my sleeve just shrunk. I didn't block it and I didn't weave in the end. So I really wanted to wear it one day and I had to catch a bus. So I just went ahead and like quickly wove in the ends badly, but anyway, let me just show you. It has this wonderful cable detail down the front. The increases are done really interestingly at the yoke, where you have these sort of like, I mean, you just have, it gives you a really big shoulder kind of look. So that's something I really liked about the pattern. I know some people like everything but that about the pattern, but for me, it really fit with, you know, the name of the pattern, Rook. I feel like the cables are very, they're very like talon-like, kind of those sharp angles. And then this reminded me, a Rook is a type of corvid that has like this ruff. So it kind of reminded me of its ruff. So I think the designer had, you know, strong intentions, and it's got a strong aesthetic. So yeah, this is a total labor of love. I fell in love with this pattern years and years ago. I queued it, and then it sat in my queue. And then in like 2020, I knew what yarn I wanted, and so my wife got it for me for my birthday. And then I think I cast it on in 2021. And then with the move, I finished a couple I finished a project, and then I think I was working on another one right before we moved that I ended up frogging. And then I was working on another one that I was like, this is gonna have to hibernate because I won't need it till next summer, and I'm not gonna finish it in time to wear it this year. So then I just was like, I can't cast on anything else. I just gotta finish up what's already in progress. So I started picking up various whips and just sort of finishing them up. So this was the first one I think I finished. And once, you know, it's funny, once you pick something up that's been sitting for a while, you get super into it, and then it's just fun. And I think, you know, this, because it's knit on, I feel like it was size 8 needles or something. It's knit on big needles, and that's something nice about it. Maybe 7s, I don't know, but it's you know, DK to worsted weight. And even though it is kind of a long sweater, like, I don't know if you can tell, but it's you know, it's like almost completely covers my booty. So, you know, it's a good size sweater. It's got a lot of ease in it. You know, there was a lot of knitting to do, but it goes fast because it's worsted weight. So it's like every 6 rows is like an inch or something. So, yeah, I really enjoyed working on this and finished it up. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna keep picking up and finishing old whips. So I have a basket here of stuff that I'm just gonna like pull stuff out and then talk about it. So that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, so my next finished object, the next thing I completed is my Rayas socks. So this is a pattern by Mckenzie Mullin, aka M to the third, and she has a naturally botanical dyes yarn company, and she has kits for this, but I wanted to use it as a stash buster project because there's just like little bits of yarn that I had that I was like, oh, I could totally use these. And this sock was so much fun to knit, you guys. It is amazing. It just so happens that all of the yarns that I picked were a little more squishy than your standard sock yarn, so I can't wait to wear these. I actually set these aside when I finished them and then didn't wear them because I wanted to share them when I recorded, but I meant to do this weeks ago and haven't been able to. So this is the first one I did, right? And so I've got this lighter blue as the main color. I knew that I didn't have enough to do 2 pairs identical, and so I was going to switch the light blue and the dark blue. And what happened is, so you can tell I started here and I was going along and I ran out of that light blue yarn. So, right about here. So I just put in another yarn and just kept it moving. So this is one that's got some more variegation. It was my brioche hearts shawl leftovers. So I feel really good that I used up leftovers. I completely used up the light blue. I used up like 2 little balls of the white, and then I used up a significant amount of this dark blue. So anyways, they are sisters, not twins, but I think they're beautiful and I can't wait to wear them. And I am loving this slip stitched heel. I feel like I need to just like give you a close-up on that. You can see it's very squishy. I don't know if you can see squishiness, but if you could, this would be the perfect illustration. It just gives you a little more support on the back of your heel, which is nice. And yeah, these are a really sturdy sock. There's a really great technique for weaving in ends as you go on this, and I don't know if it almost seems like it's similar to the Weave and Steven, but I felt like the instructions just made so much more sense and worked better, whereas you know, no shade on Stephen West, like I just didn't understand that technique as well, or it didn't work for me as well. So I would buy the pattern just for that technique, honestly, because anytime you're making striped socks, you're gonna want that, or anything striped. Like you might just want to weave in the ends as you go. So yeah, I've got a really exciting pair of socks to wear. I'll put those there. And then I finished up the Newsprint cowl from Purl Soho. This is another thing that I queued like, I don't know, 1,000 years ago. Probably, you know, this was queued when, there's a lot of stuff that I probably queued in 2015 or 2016 when I first started knitting. So this is a modified version of that pattern where for some reason my eyes always read that pattern as, you know, basically a cowl that you don't wrap, you just put it right on, right? It's just a cylinder over your head. And the pattern's actually for like a double length cowl or whatever. So you put it around and then you twist it and then you put the other, you know what I'm trying to say. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it the way I want. And there's also like this wonderful little stockinette edge that just rolls. And I did mine in 2 different colors, because why not, right? So I always love this pattern because it's designed to look like a newspaper. So from the outside or the inside, really, it's just, you're just knitting stripes. You're doing, you know, a row of one color and then 2 rows of another color. And this is a free pattern, so I'm not giving anything away that is proprietary. But on the inside, what it does is it actually makes use of the way that color changes happen on garter, and you get this wonderful effect that it looks like a newspaper. I love journalism. I love newspapers. I was that nerd. When I was in high school, I was an editor of my high school newspaper, and I did that for all 4 years of high school, and I loved it. You know, I just like always liked this pattern and never got around to it. So I got the yarn for this same birthday as I got the yarn for this, and I just cast it on maybe in 2021. No, maybe 2022, maybe earlier this year I cast this on. But what I did is I made it, you know, narrower and then longer, so I can put it on and I can, let me flip it the other way. So I can put it on and fold it over, and now I have like kind of a double layer of warmth. I actually usually kind of keep my hair tucked in just because it's like that much warmer. But then, you know, you kind of get that little peekaboo of the stripes if you want. So that's how I did it. I love it. I just saw the other day an email from Purl Soho. They're re-releasing kits for this, and they're reimagining it in a lot of different colors. So if you're not into the like newspapery look, because this is like black and a kind of grayish taupey white color called wheat flour, which I'm obsessed with now. If you don't like that sort of very neutral look, they've got all kinds of like color combos that they're encouraging people to try, and I just think it's so pretty. It looks so good. It's like you could wear this with almost any outfit. I love it. And I really am a fan of how that, you know, aside from it looking like newsprint, but just the way that the color on the garter side looks, I've noticed that in other things I've knit where there's some kind of stripe. It's like, I really like the garter side. Yeah, anyways, so that is the next finished object. And I just like want to like pause and acknowledge that I have a very strong color palette going on here with all of these finished objects, which I don't know where this came from, but I just sort of like, I mean, I know I wanted to knit more blue things, but I also have been knitting things that are very like, you know, stripes and black and white and whatever. So I don't know, I'm into it. Neutrals, and then, you know, no surprise, here's another thing that, you know, these all four kind of go together. I mean, I wouldn't wear a shawl and a cowl together, but if I was going to, here I've got a complete set. So this is the Lunae Shawl by Natasha Hornby, aka Moonstruck Knits, and I want to stand back and I want you to all admire the 41 tassels that I put on here. I actually had a lot of fun. You know, it's like weaving in a lot of ends. If you have 5 ends to weave in, it's a pain, but like if you have 40, it's like, it's a whole other project, right? And then you just sit down, you get cozy, put a movie on, get a cup of tea, whatever, and you just do it. So I have been bit by the mosaic knitting bug, and basically Natasha Hornby's designs are, to me, like just the most appealing thing. It's what I most want to knit right now. I have future plans for another shawl of hers, like very near future plans, and then I have like maybe longer term future plans for other shawls of hers. But I know the first one I want to make is the Nyx shawl, and then I really love Mare. I really love no, I ran out of names, but I know that I have a lot of them in my favorites, and there's a couple of her sweater patterns that I think are really fantastic. I've always loved the Neil A sweater, which has kind of like an elbow detail, and it's just so cool looking. And then I really love, I think it's called Callisto. It's a newer one. She's just got amazing designs, and she really, there's something about these mosaic patterns that it really reminds me of like the American Southwest and indigenous patterns and like just like Western wear in general. And since I've moved to the Midwest, I find myself even more drawn to these kinds of things. Like I was just watching a TV show and somebody had cowboy boots, and I was like, I really miss like seeing more people in cowboy boots. And I wear cowboy boots, and they're not, to me, they're not like only for cowboys. They're just like, I don't know, it's just like a thing you do, right? It's like why do Americans wear tennis shoes? We just do, right? Like we just do. So yeah, I'm super in love with these. And the kind of thing that is amazing too is that all of these are designed to work with rustic yarn, which I find I'm more and more drawn to this kind of like woolen spun, lofty, light, you know, soft but not so smooth yarn. I just have to keep holding this up because it's so amazing. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I feel like me as a newbie knitter, if I could glimpse into the future and see myself knitting this and wearing it, I would be amazed and excited. Like, and what's really awesome is that even the wrong side looks really cool on mosaic knitting. I didn't know that that was a thing, but because generally speaking, I think mosaic patterns have much shorter float. You can only do so long of a float, right? Like there's very few times when you're knitting more than a few stitches of any color. So you're not having, like, whereas in color work, you could space a contrast color out over, you know, 10 stitches and you would just catch the float in the back. But I think with mosaic knitting, most of the designs seem to be a lot more color interplay and not like big blank spaces. So yeah, anyways, amazing, right? I love it. I love it. And I had so much fun making this too. I think something that I shared with another person who had been kind of eyeballing the pattern is that because of the way that it's constructed, you knit side to side for like the top panel, and then you pick up stitches along the bottom and you do this mosaic part. I was like, by the time you get to the mosaic part, you're so excited to knit it. You're like chomping at the bit, and it's so much fun to knit. So it's like your reward at the end, which is like not to say that this part isn't fun to do too, but it's just like that is the showstopper, right? Like that's the stunning finish. And so it really is like a delight to make this, just like joy all the way through. So yeah, I can't, again, I washed it, I blocked it, I didn't wear it. I just folded it up to set it aside for this podcast, and I can't believe I did that. And then I've been waiting and waiting to wear it. So it's going into rotation as of like right now. Yeah. I'm gonna check my show notes, my very sophisticated way of writing show notes. So let's see what else I have to talk about. Okay, I have just a couple of works in progress to share. So I won't even show it, but I've been working on my half and half wrap, which is a very popular pattern. You've probably heard of it. It's basically 2 giant triangles. And for me, it's a little bit of a struggle at this point. The first half was really fun. The triangle was getting, or you know, the knitting that you're doing, the wedge is like getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Now I'm on the part where it's getting bigger and bigger. And not only does it not go very fast, but it's also like not super portable, because you're like wrangling this big piece of knitting. And so I don't love knitting garter stitch on size 3 needles. It's not a piece that I'm thrilled to have in my wardrobe. I mean, I'm gonna like it and I'm gonna get use out of it, but it is more of a basic, you know what I mean? It's like in the shawl world, or in, you know, in the clothing world, it would be a plain white t-shirt, I guess. In the ready to wear clothing, it's like, yeah, you need it in your wardrobe, but you're not like thrilled about like, oh, I'm shopping for a plain white t-shirt. Anyways, so I'm working on that. Not exciting. I also cast on a pair of socks because I wanted to have something to work on like during work meetings, and I find that socks they're very portable. They're also great for knitting like on the bus, or if you're, you know, waiting somewhere in line. It's just like small and portable, and aside from like certain parts of it, you know, you really are just going around and around. So this is the pattern Morning Coffee Socks, and it's got a twisted rib cuff. It's got a 3x1 rib body, which I think will really make it to where it stretches a lot. And then it has a slip stitch heel, which I love. I was just talking about how much I love those, and it's part of why I chose this pattern. So heel flap and gusset. I had never done a heel flap and gusset in a contrast color before the Rayas socks, and so I wasn't really sure about like, you know, what part do you, like, where do you change to your other color? And this pattern explained that to me. You do your heel flap, you do your heel turn, and then you change. So so yeah, I just I found a contrast color yarn. This is this creamy peaches and cream kind of color is Deep Stash. I know it was a Nora George something Harry Potter themed from way back when, but it doesn't look like Harry Potter to me. It just looks like peaches and cream. Then I bought, okay, this is Emma's Yarn Practically Perfect Sock. And so this was, she makes these little minis. I think this colorway is called Volume. And it's just really bright orange. I would say like a citrusy orange. It's not mango and it's not pumpkin. It's more of a, you know, an orange. And I just thought it looked good with this. I mean, like, what else would you put with this, right? Like, so yeah, and then I'm on the toe with this, but I cannot do a lot of sock knitting all the time because the tiny needles are bothering me a lot. TBD later. Put a pin in that one. And what I did is because I hate ribbing, and to me it's like the worst part of starting a new project is you have to usually start with ribbing if it's like a sweater where you have to do ribbing. I also hate ending with ribbing. It's just, ribbing sucks. So I did myself a favor and I cast on and did the ribbing for the first one, and then I cast on the second one immediately after. So when I pick up this, I won't have to do that top cuff. And that little favor to myself is I already appreciate it, like knowing I don't have to do that. So that's one project I have going on. The other one that I'm excited to share is something that also has been in my queue for as long as it's existed, and really it was in my mental queue before the pattern was published. So Sari Nordlund has a YouTube channel, and she shares a lot of times, you know, what she's designing as she's designing it. So she shared this pattern, Luma, and the minute I saw it, I was like, I must knit that. Well, I'm knitting it, and I knew that I wanted it. I think I knew I wanted the main color to be blue from the get-go. Like, I saw what she was making and I was like, I love your color choices, but for me it would have to be like a navy blue. And I thought I wanted to do white for the contrast color, but then I saw another knitting podcast that I watch, Kristen Lehrer, who owns Woolen Vine Yarns, and you know, was probably like the podcaster who's been doing this the longest. She created a Birkin sweater with these really amazing mini skeins that she had that were all these kind of like moody pastels. And I'm not a fan of the Birkin pattern. I'm not a fan of Caitlin Hunter's designs, but I really appreciated the way that Kristen laid out the colors and like her color combos, and she did it with, I think, like a deep charcoal color. So I was like, it looks good with the dark. So I am knitting it is kind of a mess because the bottom is on needles and, okay, shut up, Brianna, just shut up. Let's all just admire this thing of wonder. This is, again, if you had told brand new knitter me that someday I would be making this, I would fucking shit my pants. Like, it's amazing. I don't know why I would shit my pants. Probably wouldn't happen, but I would be very pleasantly surprised. And I guess shitting your pants is not a pleasant surprise. This is what I mean about I get sweary. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm making the most beautiful thing I've ever made. And I felt that way about the Lunae Shawl, and now I felt this way about this, like even more. Like, Lunae, I hardly knew her, right? I think I don't know her. I'm not hip, you guys. I don't know these things. I just want to look at it, but let me talk about it. So the main yarn, I finally found the perfect color for the main part of this, and I had been like looking at, I think I was looking at some yarns from the Fiber Company. I was looking at the Acadia and the Erin Moore Light, which both of those, I have seen them listed in various places as DK, as worsted, and I never quite know like why. I think even the Fiber Company has reclassified them all as DK, because I remember when Lore was like their main DK yarn, and now anyways, it's just like, so I know I was looking at those. I know I like the Cumbria from that brand. I think I had been looking at the Cascade 220, which is the recommended yarn. And I just sort of hadn't bought anything. I wasn't like inspired to buy anything. And then we went to Blackberry Ridge Fiber Mill, and I saw this amazing color, and it's just called Navy, but it is amazing. And I caked up the last skein last night, so just so I could show you this. Well, also because I need to use it. And it is like this rich, glowing tonal blue. I don't even have words. So there are areas where it's lighter and darker, and it just, I mean, you can see it a lot more in the body of the sweater. See, there's like that variation in color. It's just amazing. It's amazing. And it's worsted weight. Let me find the tag so I can tell you about it. Okay, so this is just called medium. It says medium weight 2-ply. So 225 yards per skein. So that's, to me, a worsted weight. I think if it has 250 or more, it's DK. But it's 25% mohair and 75% wool. It doesn't say like what kind of wool, but I assume, you know, just like US or Australian or South American grown, maybe a blend of all of the above wool. The color is navy. What else can I say about it? I guess that's it. But the I had mentioned the Fiberco's Cumbria, and I made a hat out of that. It's 25% mohair, and that makes it warmer. It doesn't create the halo that when you think of like silk mohair being stranded with the yarn, it doesn't create a lot of halo, but it does make it like even warmer, and like it's just like a, I don't know, it's just got a quality to it that I like blended into the wool. So and you know, if you were to strand mohair and wool together, you're actually getting like 50% mohair, maybe, you know, arguably maybe 45% depending on the mohair blend that you're working with. But I like it. Long story short, I like it. And this was like pretty much like the Cumbria that I was kind of leaning towards, but it was a little more tonal, just like, I don't know, and it was there and it just looked perfect, and I was like, yes, that's it. And at that point I knew I was going to use this purple color and this purple color. I didn't know for sure I was going to use this, but I went ahead and did it. So this is a little bit of sock yarn. Let me just run through my yarns really quick. So, okay, Blackberry Ridge Medium is the main one. This green, I played the most epic game of yarn chicken in the world, and this is what I was left with. You will see from the ends that I was left with that much. How perfect is that? I didn't trim it. That's just what was left. Okay, and then I did a little, this little dot here. This is the white color. This is actually the wheat flour from my newsprint cowl. I had a lot of that left over. The main gray that you see in here is Quince Co Turn, and so is this one, and so is this, although this is held with 3 different shades of mohair to give it like a fade. So it's a very pale pink mohair, a more kind of like darker pink mohair, the dusty rose, and then the middle color, I think the middle purple, it's just a lavender that matches the yarn almost exactly. And that one I think is from Sandnes Garn, but the other 2 are from Knitting for Olive. Over here back in the gray, I stranded, you can't see it, but I have this little strand of like glitter yarn, sparkle yarn. So it's got a strand of sparkly and then a strand of mohair, which is a discontinued one. I'm so sad it's discontinued. It's from Sugarbush yarns, and it is this gray that kind of fades to like more purpley grays, more green grays. It's lovely. This again is the wheat flour from Purl Soho, and I love this part of the design so much. Because these to me look like lotus chips. If you've ever had like And if you've never had them, please go find some and eat some. Lotus root sliced and then fried into chips is like so good. It's so, so good. So these are my lotus chips here. And then this, more deep stash leftovers. So this bluish purple is from Polka Dot Sheep, and it's actually a sport weight. And so you can see I used things that are fingering weight, sock yarn, sport weight, whatever, and I just made it all work. This is a single ply here. This is actually fingering weight with 2 strands of mohair. This is just fingering weight held double, fingering weight with a strand of mohair, a strand of glitter, sock yarn held double, etc. And then this one has some mohair silk blend from Shibui Knits. So I am just like combining, you know, different things to make gauge. And it's been a really fun experiment, and I get to do a little bit more color work on the cuffs of the sleeves. So I'm gonna do the full length sleeves, and I've decided with this pattern, I'm gonna do everything that the pattern says to do. The one exception is that the pattern has, this part says it's optional anyway, but you fold over the collar. So let me hold it up here. So it's got a tall collar, and it's that way so that you can fold it over and seam it down, and then you have a double thick collar. I know I'm like covering my mouth so you can't hear me. That's really smart. I think I kind of just want to leave the collar tall. Yeah. So that is the sweater that's happening. There is short row shaping in the back. And I'm doing that. I'm following, in every other way, I'm following exactly what the pattern says. And I just hope that the sleeves don't end up too long, because I'm short, and so my arms are kind of short. And so, you know, I'm proportionate to myself, but most patterns I think are written for people of more like average height with average length arms. And, yeah, so I might have to like pay a little bit of attention to that, but then again, I feel like I end up making so many things 3/4 sleeve that if I had something with really long sleeves, it would be fine. This is going to be awesome in the winter, and it gets cold as F here. Like, it is so cold in Wisconsin. Sometimes you look at your phone's like weather app and it's just like, do not go outside. It's not advised to be outdoors because it's too cold. You will die. So like, yeah, like we have days like that, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for color work worsted weight, because it basically makes it double thick when you have all the, what do you call it? Floats in the back. So for people who like to see floats, here you go. These are the floats. This is the wrong side. It looks surprisingly good, I have to say. And it's funny how some of the patterns like just look kind of the same on the inside. Like these like viney kind of patterns. Anyway, yeah. Or you have like a reverse flower, reverse lotus roots, etc. So yeah, I'm ready for this. It's gonna be warm. It's gonna be really cozy and thick, and it's got mohair upon mohair, and yeah, and this is me like knitting for the climate that I live in, not just the climate that I wish I had or whatever, or, you know, not just like knitting whatever I think is pretty, but this is, I think, the prettiest thing I've ever made, and I'm definitely going to make another one. I've already decided I need to find, again, it'll be a quest to find the perfect yarn, but I have this this like brushed alpaca for the contrast that I'm going to use, and it's white, and it's like a bright white, and it's just beautiful. And so I think I'm going to find like a charcoal-y color. I have thought about Brooklyn Tweed Shelter in the cast iron color, because I really like that yeah, like something that's like charcoaly or black with like little flecks of white. Maybe something tweedy. I don't know if tweed would work with this, but you know, just I want to do one where there's basically just a single contrast color. And I have talked for a long time about this, so let's move along. I have more things to share, believe it or not, but I just want to look at that forever. And you know, it's nice because I feel like I haven't always felt this way, but like when I finished the sweater, I just wanted to put it on right away, and it's really cozy, it's comfortable, it works with everything in my wardrobe. I'm happy with it. I'm just like feeling the same way about this one, so it feels good, because sometimes I make things, you know, and then I go, oh, why did I make that? Or that doesn't quite work. So moving on, I wanted to share a little bit of what I've been up to and how I've been, you know, enjoying the fall. So I went to the Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival this year. It is only my second fiber festival ever. Although I have been to like the Rose City Yarn Crawl many years, and I recently did like a I guess Southeast Wisconsin Yarn Crawl, or Eastern Wisconsin. I don't really know how they consider South and North here. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but yeah, so I went to this one. It was interesting. There was basically like these huge barns full of like vendors selling things. And then there were classes you could sign up for that were like in a completely different building. And then all of the like animal show parts were at like 8 a.m. So I didn't see any of that. I did get there in time to see a few, I think they had like some blue-faced Leicester that were just like being sheared. They were doing shearing demos, and it was like 4-H students, and some of them were pretty young, and the poor sheep did not look like, it wasn't their best haircut. But it was, you know, it was cool. I bought this mug from someone there, and yeah, that's it. I don't even know her name. It was Jenny something. Yeah, we just kind of had fun, you know, shopping, and there's kind of a crossover, I think, of fiber people and plant people. So my wife found things that she liked, and that was cool. One of the things about, you know, fiber festivals worth mentioning is that this year I told myself I was either going to buy a house or I was going to go to Rhinebeck. I think for reasons that are obvious, you can't always do both of those things at once. And moving has just been an incredible amount of work, and we are tired, and I am sleeping every day. I sleep in like more. I don't usually sleep in the mornings. I'm in my normal life, I guess, whenever that was, I would wake up naturally at like 6 a.m. and here, like today, I just slept till 8 because I can. I don't start work that early, so you know, it just like, it's amazing like how much sleep I clearly need. You know, like I mentioned, I didn't go to Rhinebeck this year because I bought a house and needed to move, and I would like to go next year, but I've always known that when I go to Rhinebeck, it's going to be more than just like going to the Sheep and Wool Festival. And I know that like it's a big event. There's a lot of vendors there that I want to be able to buy from, and so I'm hoping that between now and next fall, I can use up a lot of the yarn I have so that I can go to Rhinebeck and like purchase to my heart's content, maybe refill the cabinet without feeling bad about it. I'm not like a big haul kind of person that I go to events and feel like I have to buy everything that I even somewhat like. I don't fall in love with every skein of yarn. Like, you know, some people are just like, I just love it. And I'm more like, I might go, okay, I like this color, but like I've seen this color at my local yarn store. I can get it whenever. Or, you know, this is very similar to something else that I have or something else that I saw. And so I don't usually treat, you know, fiber festivals as like an opportunity to just like go crazy. But I do think that, you know, I will probably be shopping for more like sweater quantities and like wanting to, which obviously take up more space, right? And so I have like 5 or 6 sweater quantities in here, and I want to use those up. Probably have more than that, to be honest. I also have yarn downstairs, but like I might just give that away or trade it with people. You know, I want to try to like use up a lot so that I can go and like purchase a lot, and because I know I'm gonna want to go to the Purl Soho store, I'm gonna want to go to Brooklyn General and Nitty City and String Thing and like all of these like New York based yarn stores that I've heard of, you know, that I've seen online. I've followed them on Instagram, whatever. Yeah, it's gonna be like a shopping trip for sure. So I want to be able to like kind of use stuff up and like, you know, yeah, like yarn in, yarn out, right? Like it's all about like the flow of stuff, and I don't want to just like buy stuff and then just have it like sit on a shelf forever. Okay, so another thing I've been working on is I've been setting up a craft space. So in our house we have a full unfinished basement. The people we bought this house from were musicians, and they used the basement as a practice space and recording studio. They had taken like part of that basement and sort of framed up a little room, which I think was kind of just like a lounge space because it had like a couch and not much else in it. And so there's this little like room, and the walls are just like beadboard, and the ceiling is that really horrible drop ceiling with like the foam tile, which yeah, it's not great. So there's a concrete floor, there's a foam drop ceiling, but it's a craft room, right? Long story short, it's a craft room now. And the most important thing is it gets heat down there. So it's heated, there's like adequate lighting, it's all like wired up electrically. It's just like no one ever actually did drywall or like made it into a real room. It's just, you know, they partitioned it off, and they had a lot of like soundproofing panels and stuff anyway. So like when we looked at it before, it didn't look as bare bones as it is now. So I'm just going to be, you know, kind of turning that into a nice craft space. Like I mentioned, I have a sewing machine table, and that was like the main thing I wanted, is I want to just put my sewing machine out on the table and leave it there. I've got like a shelf in there for projects, and I'm going to get some tubs because I think like sewing projects, you want to be able to just put it in a tub with a lid. I have a table where I have like my Swift and ball winder set up. I don't know why I'm struggling with words right now, but so yeah, so that's something I'm looking at like as kind of a winter project too, is trying to make that like a little more, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing, like enjoyable to be in, because we don't really have a space upstairs where I can keep all of that kind of creative stuff and not have to put it away. Like I can put my yarn in this cabinet because it's enclosed, but I can't have like, you know, I can't pull my sewing machine out and like, you know, just have sewing all over here. And if you sew and if you quilt especially, you know how messy that gets. There's just thread everywhere, right? So yeah, and then, you know, we are trying to get outside and enjoy the fall foliage, because this is the second autumn in a row that we have been moving and not having a lot of chance to just get out and explore and see, you know, the beautiful seasonal change. I mean, the foliage here in Wisconsin, it's just beautiful here. It's a really gorgeous transition, and you know, autumn is beautiful everywhere, but it's like really nice here. So we did get out to the Seven Bridges, which is part of the Oak Trail or something like that, and I might throw in a little footage of leaves. And then I've also been dealing with kind of, you know, as I look forward to like my winter wardrobe, I'm just noticing like a lot of my sweaters that I've knit, and even some of the accessories I've knit, they just don't work for me anymore, or they haven't been working. Anyways, squirrel surprised me. Yeah, so like my body's changed, my style has kind of changed a little bit. My hair is developing more and more gray hairs, and I'm thinking about just like letting it go and or doing like a gray blending color. So, you know, that also affects it, you know, color choices. But a lot of it is just like, you know, moving to a different region with a different climate. I find like this is worsted weight and cabled, and so it's really thick. I've got a worsted weight color work, so that's really thick. And I find that I really want sweaters that have like a good, like this neck is really about as open as I want it to be at this point. I don't want anything with a wider neck, and a lot of knitting patterns are, I've noticed, designed with a wider neck, especially like as you go up in the sizes, they make the neck bigger and bigger so that, I don't know, they have to do less math or something. But I just want things to fit a certain way, you know, and I want, I no longer want so many things that are like thin, like fingering weight or sport weight sweaters. I think I want more like worsted Aran maybe. Yeah, like I just feel like I'm looking at a lot of my knits, and for one reason or another they just don't work anymore. So I'm kind of going to be changing like how I choose patterns and what I choose to work on, and I want to slow down on my making too, because I think you know, like I said, I've been just like casting on, and then I end up with this huge pile of unfinished things, and maybe I'm not excited about them. I think I'm gonna be frogging things like earlier on if I don't like it, and I think I'm just gonna start kind of like not so much writing a pattern, but just like inventing my own, because I feel like there's a lot of patterns out there that are, like I said, the neckline is really big, or it's like boat neck, or it's in some way it just doesn't work, right? And so I think I need to just like stop and like think a little more, and instead of trying to find a pattern that fits, I'm gonna just, you know, or like find a pattern that I like, and then I have to like go and like find the right yarn, and it can take years, like I said, like to figure out in my mind like what color do I want to work with. So case in point, I have this magazine and this sweater is so gorgeous. I will not be making it yellow, but I don't know what color I want to do it in, so I have to like think about it, and it might take me a while to decide. Yeah, I think that's sort of all I had to say. If you are still watching this, then congratulations, you have some podcast stamina, and or you're just like working on a sleeve, and or, you know, the dreaded ribbing at the bottom of your sweater that you don't want to do. I'm with you on that. But thank you for watching. If you want to connect with me, I'm trying to get more active on the making app, because it is a space of just greater joy for me. So I'm ryoknits on the making app, also on Instagram. On Ravelry, I am still on Ravelry, probably always will be, actually, not necessarily enthusiastically, but it's a great database, and I love me a good database. I am Rhiannon O on Ravelry, and if you wanted to get something from Ravelry and couldn't because it's not accessible to you, I am always happy to download something, whatever, like help you out with that. So yeah, I think that's everything. I will hopefully share a picture of a squirrel or some leaves or something, so that you have a little fall in your day before we go. But yeah, I will talk to you later. Bye.